Hello, welcome to Yoga with Mercedes. Today's class will be all about seated yoga poses. We'll start with some of the easier options and then we'll build towards more advanced options towards the end of class. So depending on your practice, just pick the postures that feel good and accessible in your body. Know that seated yoga postures have a great benefit for us as it helps us get centered so that we can then later on sit in meditation if that's one of our goals. Also, in seated yoga poses, we're grounded. Our seat is on the mat. We start feeling the hips grounded to the mat. The legs can be in front with the knees bent. However, anytime we have the knees bent and this doesn't feel accessible in your body, don't worry, I'm going to give you some options along the way. So as we move through our class today, just make sure that you're taking the poses, the asanas, the shapes that feel good in your body. You can then expand deeper, getting a deeper stretch. If there are any postures that we come into that feel a little bit too advanced or just not working for certain parts of your body, that's all right. You can opt out of them and just wait for the next pose. So just do what your body wants to comfortably. As always, we're looking for that sweet spot, finding our edge, finding that place where we can feel sensation in the body, but not so much that we feel really uncomfortable or out of control or have any pain. So we'll start in what's called Sukhasana or easy seat. The way that my body is positioned, I've got my knees bent and I've got one leg in front of the other. Now, for you, it might feel great to have your hips grounded to the mat. Or it might feel better to take a blanket or a block to sit onto. Now, if you're taking the option of sitting onto a prop, you'll lift your hips, position yourself on the prop. Now you'll feel that the hips are lifted higher than the knees. This is going to open up the angle at the knees a little bit and give you just a little more release, a little more comfort if you've got some knee issues. Now, your knees don't have to be bent at all. In your seat, you can bring your legs in front so that the legs are straight or extended. You can sit with your legs together, and you'll see different variations of seated poses as we move along the way. So anytime you're feeling one of your knees or both of your knees, know that you're welcome to switch up your legs however you feel is best serving your body today. So please, as always, listen into your body, wiggle around and modify until you find that sweet spot. So starting in Sukhasana, this is a really great pose because not only is it pretty accessible for most people, but we feel grounded in our seat. And when we feel grounded, we start to feel a sensation of being more balanced within our bodies. Now, as our hips are grounded, the crown of the head is reaching up towards the ceiling. The spine is erect. We focus on positioning the shoulders above the hips and the ears above the shoulders. So if at any point you notice that your shoulders are coming forward and you're rounding your spine, just send the shoulders back. Lengthen the spine again, and remember to pull the crown of your head up. At the same time, rooting down through your seat, lengthening your spine. Sukhasana, easy seat. Remember your props anytime you want to come into this pose. Another option is that you can sit directly up against the wall. If you are taking that option, it'll feel comfortable for you if you feel like your shoulders are going back or if you're holding any tension at all. By scooting up to the wall and having your tailbone all the way up to your shoulders and your head connected, then you've got the support of the wall to hold you up. Then you don't have to worry about your positioning. You've got the support of the entire wall space. So that is a really supported option if you'd like. Now, from our easy pose of Sukhasana, we're going to start to take a moving spinal twist, and we're moving with our breath. If you're up against the wall, you're going to be limited in how much you can twist. So just something to think about. To start, we'll take our hands outside of our hips. On an inhale breath, we'll lift the arms up, fingertips towards the ceiling. As we exhale, we'll twist to one direction. As we inhale, we come back to center. Exhale, twist opposite direction. Movement following the breath. Inhale, find center. Exhale, twist. Inhale, center. Exhale, twist opposite direction. Let's take one more on each side. Movement following the breath. Allowing our spine to get some mobility and fluidity. Allowing ourselves to detoxify. And then the arms come down. Inhale, arms rise up. Now, as you exhale, take one hand down. Position the hand in line with your hip. If your fingertips or your palm doesn't meet the mat, then you can bring a block to position your hand on. So you're bringing the ground up to you. Now, on the next inhale breath, reach your fingers up. And then as you exhale, lean over towards your grounded hand. Now, what's really important here is not how far you lean over, but the fact that your hips, both of your hips, stay grounded on the mat and that your top bicep is above your ear. So if you notice that your chest is caving in, open your heart. You might even turn your head to look up. If that hurts your neck, you can turn to face down to the mat. You might even come onto your forearm. Feel a nice stretch on your side body. And on your next inhale, let both arms rise up. So we'll do the same thing, opposite direction. Now the opposite hand grounds down or the fingertips. Inhale, reach the top fingers up. And as you exhale, fold over. Bicep above the ear. This side might be different. Don't worry about matching this side to the other. Have the experience that this side needs. Our bodies are very asymmetrical. It's very common to have one side tighter than the other. Just notice. Open the chest. Notice if you like to look up or if you prefer to look down. If you feel tension on your grounded arm, maybe modify, wiggle around, but keep both hips grounded. Now preparing to come up. Inhale, arms rise up. We're going to take that one more time on each side. Noticing if you can go a little deeper this second round. Allowing the muscles between the ribs to stretch. Reaching through the fingers and feeling a nice stretch from your hip to your arm. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, opposite direction. Both hips stay down. Inhale, rise up. And then exhale, bring the hands down. Take a full round of breath here. If your knees are bent, keep your legs in this position. We are going to fold forward so that we can gently start to open the hips. This is important because as we progress through class, we're going to be opening the hips more. That way, when we get to the end of class, we can take deeper hip openers. So your choice if you want to continue to sit on your prop or not. Whatever you choose, the fingertips will come in front of the legs. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, walk your hands forward. As you fold forward, keep those hips down. Maybe you're resting on your hands or your forearms. As long as your hips are grounded, you can release your head, lowering your forehead down even more. Your forehead might meet the ground, or you might position a prop like a pillow or a block to rest your head on. Notice how your hip feels. You'll likely feel the stretch of the hip of the leg that you have in front. And then as we inhale, we'll slowly start to rise up. When we exhale, we walk the hands towards the body. Back to a straight spine. Take a round of breath here. Now switching the legs, the leg that's in front, bring it behind. Again, make sure both hips stay grounded on your mat or on your prop. Maybe shimmy the hips from side to side to make sure that's happening. And then when you're ready, take the fingers in front of the legs. Take an inhale breath. Exhale, walk your hands forward, deciding if this is enough of a stretch or if you can lower the forearms down. Keep the hips connected. Release the urge to hold the head up. Let it go. Fold as deeply as you can without feeling out of control of this shape. You might even close your eyes and feel into the hip, feeling the sensation. And feeling gratitude for having a grounding practice today. Take one more full round of breath and see if you can fold a little deeper with your exhale. And then inhale, rise up. Back to center, back to a straight spine. I really like hip openers. So this is a posture that I can stay in for a long amount of time, several rounds of breath, several minutes. If this is one that feels good in your body, know that anytime you're feeling tight in the hips, this is a really nice option and you can stay in it for as long as you'd like, as long as your hips are telling you that they want to be in it. So now, if you are sitting on a prop, let's practice removing it. Just setting it aside for now. We're going to change the shape of the legs. So we'll bring the legs to extend in front. As you bring the legs in front, bring your feet together, legs together. This is our staff pose. The body looks like the letter L. As you inhale, the arms come up. Now we're going to hinge at the hips, bending, folding forward, coming into a seated forward fold, also known as Paschimottanasana. Let the hands meet the mat or maybe your shins. Inhale, lift the crown of the head up, and then exhale, see if you can fold a little deeper. You might bring your hands to your ankles. You might bring your hands to your feet. Just practice softening with each exhale. Feel a nice stretch in the back space and at the hamstrings. Really nice stretch for the back of the body. Just take a couple more rounds of breath here, noticing the experience of this shape. And then inhale, rise up. Back to our straight spine. From here, we'll take a seated forward fold again, but this time, rather than having the legs together, we're going to open the legs wide. This is our wide-legged forward fold, also known as wide-legged straddle. So, the legs need to be grounded. Try to get your calf muscles and your hamstrings touching the mat. If there's too much lift, bring the feet closer together until the legs feel grounded. Inhale, lift the crown of the head up. Exhale, walk the hands forward. Start to fold forward. Noticing if you're pointing or flexing your feet, and just let the feet relax. Let the feet be passive. Feel a nice stretch at the inner thighs. If you want to go deeper, you can relax your head, letting your head lower down. Maybe you send the elbows out, letting the chest melt down. You're always welcome to use a prop to lean on if that's what you like in your practice. Come back to the exhale breath, practicing softening and surrendering to the pose with each exhalation. Last round of breath. Inhale, slowly lift the head. Exhale, walk the hands towards the body. Take a round of breath here. In case you didn't know, when the physical parts of the yoga practice was developed, all of the postures were seated. And all of the postures were created to make a sequence so that you could get the wiggles out of your body so that your body could then sit in stillness for meditation. From our wide-legged forward fold, we'll lift the knees so that we can bring the soles of the feet together. So we're coming into Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet meet. Your thumbs can come to your arches. Now, before we fold forward, I like to offer a little moment to press your thumbs into the arches of your feet and then draw circles. So the thumbs stay pressing in and then you circle the thumbs around. You can then pick up the thumbs and move to a different part of the arch of the foot. Some of you might notice tension in this area. So this is a really nice offering of self-massage, knowing that our feet do so much for us. So it's really nice to give our feet some love. So after you've taken some circles and some self-care for your feet, bring the hands to stillness. You can keep your thumbs at the arches of your feet with your fingers wrapped around your feet, or you can bring your fingers to curl around your toes. Inhale, lift the crown of your head up. Exhale, lean and fold forward. You might use your elbows to rest on your lower legs. If this is too intense of a stretch for you, then you can lift out, send your feet away from your body. The more you send your feet away, the less intense the stretch will be. Alternatively, if you can go for a deeper stretch for the inner thighs and the hips, getting external rotation of the hips, then the heels will come closer to the body. Now that is going to cause some compression in the knees, so just be gentle with your knees. Your feet might be somewhere in the middle. One more round of breath. Inhale, lift the head, head rises up. Back to our straight spine. Now from here, we're gonna take a longer held seated spinal twist. To come into this pose, let's start with straightening one leg. Take your opposite foot outside of your bottom leg, so the sole of the foot meets the mat. Now, the knee that you have lifted, you're gonna rotate to that side. If your bottom leg is straight, this will be more gentle for your knees. If you can go for a deeper expression, then you're gonna bend your bottom knee. So then both knees will be bent. So to come into this pose, the leg that you have lifted, That same side hand comes behind the hip to support like a kickstand. Now, as you twist, your other arm is going to catch on to the outer thigh. Inhale, lift the head up, and then exhale, twist, look past your back shoulder. Stay in the twist. On your next exhale, release. Maybe you noticed a really nice stretch for your shoulder. It's really important to keep the hips grounded because that anchors you down when you come into the twist. So before we try that on the other side, we're going to incorporate another pose. This is called Gomukhasana. The idea is to get the top knee directly above the bottom knee. Now we're getting internal rotation of the hips. I know that this can be a lot if your hips are tight. So if you're trying this and this does not feel accessible at all, then please come back to straightening your bottom leg, okay? Alternatively, you can keep the knees bent if that's okay for your body, and then you can get some lift by sitting onto a block. So try those options. Another option is that you can simply leave the legs here, or you can work with lifting one arm, bending the elbow, reaching the other arm behind, and then seeing if the fingers can meet behind your back. If this isn't comfortable, you can use a strap to help you let the hands meet. If this is way too much to work with the legs and the arms, let the arms go and just come back to Gomukhasana. So as you figure out which option is working for you, I'm going to show you how to use the strap if you want to do the arm option. And if you want to use the strap but you don't have one, it's no problem, don't worry. You can use a scarf or a belt, or some people even use a towel. So the prop comes into your hand, you bend your elbow, your bottom arm comes back and catches the other end of your prop. That's going to be easier on your shoulders if your shoulders are tight. And remember, if you don't want the arm option, you don't have to take it. If you want to focus completely on your hips, then you can lean forward to get a deeper hip stretch. Just make sure that your feet are out to the sides, that you're not sitting on your feet, and that you can shimmy from side to side and feel both hips grounded down. Just a couple more rounds of breath here. Inhale, the head rises up. Take a breath. We're going to set up on the other side. So we'll simply switch the positioning of the legs. The leg that was on top now comes underneath. We're taking the top leg, sole of the foot, outside of the grounded thigh, because we're coming into our seated spinal twist first before Gomukhasana. Remember, if you extended your bottom leg on the other side, you can take that option as well on this side. Both hips need to be grounded as our anchor for when we twist. So however you need to position the legs to feel both hips connected, that's going to be your best option. Now, the leg that you have lifted, same side hand comes back to support behind the hip like a kickstand. Opposite arm can reach up, and then as you twist, the elbow hooks onto the thigh. Now, look past your shoulder, just enough to feel a stretch at this shoulder, and know that you're getting a spinal twist as well. Work here, dig deep to get your breath. And then gently rotate back to center. We'll come into Gomukhasana on this side. Now we're stacking the top knee on top of the bottom knee. We can extend that bottom leg for more comfort if your hips are really tight. If both knees are bent, make sure your feet are out to the sides. And remember that you can sit onto a prop if you want and need to lift the hips up higher. Now, arms can come forward and you can fold forward, focusing on just opening up the hips and controlling that sensation in the lower body. If you want to work with the upper body as well, now the strap comes into the opposite hand. Bend your elbow, the strap is going to fall behind the back. Your other arm reaches back, elbow bends, and then just grab onto where you can at the strap, or your fingers might even meet on this side. Notice the experience on this side. Asymmetry is very common because most people favor one hand over the other. You might even play around with lifting the elbow up to the sky. You might not even want the arm option. Whatever you choose, take 2 more rounds of breath. Inhale, rise up. Find a straight spine. Take a round of breath. Exhale, open your mouth, let it go. Unwind the legs. Bring the feet in front. Bring the hands behind you. And then just rock the knees from side to side, releasing any tension you might have created in the hip area. Now we're going to come into hero pose. I can come into that pose by bringing one leg out to the side and then the other leg out to the side. This might be too much for you. The idea is to have your seat grounded and your feet out to the side so that you're sitting on your seat. Again, if you're feeling too much compression for the knees, take a block or 2 blocks underneath your seat to lift up higher. This is actually my favorite shape to be in when I meditate. I feel that I can get my spine more erect for a longer amount of time than sitting in a cross-legged position. You can bring in a second block and get even more height. So the more height that you get, the less compression you're going to get for your knees. You're opening up the angle at the knees. So 2 blocks is quite comfortable for most bodies. If you can go lower and remove a block or both, then you're going to get a deeper quad stretch. So just depending on how your body feels today and also your goals for what you want in this seated pose, pick that option and come into that. If you don't have blocks, no worries. You can also invite in a blanket or a pillow of whatever size of your choice to sit on. And I like to bring the corner of the blanket to center. Now this is really comfortable for your seat because you don't feel the hard edges of the block. So a pillow or blanket option is going to be more cushy. And here maybe you close your eyes and just practice taking a few rounds of breath. As your eyes close, take a deep inhale all the way to the top of the breath. And as you exhale, open your mouth, let it go. Take a couple more rounds of breathing with awareness, hearing the sound of your breath. Giving yourself permission to let go with each exhale. And then find your breath, the way you breathe naturally without force or control. And simply notice how you feel in this position, hero pose. You might even play around with bringing your knees closer together. And just know if that causes any discomfort in your thighs, you can separate the knees again. But give yourself time to notice the shape that your body prefers. Simply letting the hands rest on the thighs. With the elbows bent, letting the arms be passive. Now from here, we're gonna advance a little more if you're ready. We're gonna leave one leg down and we're gonna practice extending the opposite leg. Lift up whichever knee you'd like, bring the sole of the foot down. You'll need your arms or a strap. Taking your hands to your foot, practice pressing your foot forward. Now, if your hands don't meet your foot, take a strap or whatever prop that you have that's similar, then press the foot to the strap. Now you've got your leg straight or as straight as you can, stretching the calf and the hamstring. One more round of breath. Let it go. Release the strap if you are working with it. Bring this leg back outside. Now we're going to do that on the other side. I'm just going to turn the positioning of my body. I'm sitting on a blanket. You don't have to, you can sit directly down. So now the opposite leg lifts, sole of the foot comes down first. Take your hands to your foot. Notice how much you can extend your leg. If extending the leg with the hands isn't accessible today, take the arch of your foot to the strap, hold on to the ends of it, and then press the foot to the strap. This is going to be a much safer option if your hamstring and your calf muscles are really tight. And then looking at your foot, breathe. On your next exhale, release. Set the foot down. Bring both feet forward. Now, if you're sitting on your prop, remove it. Just place it out to the side. With your feet in front, position your heels in line with your glutes. We're now going to come into a seated balance. So for those of you that like balance work, know that we're going to be testing that, and we're also going to be engaging the core. So starting by taking our big toes to the mat, we'll lift the arms. Fingers are reaching forward, thumbs are up, as if we're giving a thumbs up sign. Option to stay here, or we can practice lifting the feet so that the ankles are in line with the knees. The shins are parallel to the mat. If we want to go deeper, we can extend the legs straight, maybe lean back a little more. If this hurts your back or it's too much of a balance, come back to bending the knees, ankles in line with the knees. Now, if your spine is rounding and you're collapsing in, open your heart, send it forward. Imagine there's a string attached to your chest that's lifting straight up to the ceiling. One more round of breath. Feel that core engage. And then exhale, bring the feet down. Take a round of breath here. Keeping the legs in front, extend the legs. Bring the legs down and bring the heels of your feet to the edges of the mat. Bend one knee, bring the sole of the foot to the inner thigh of your other leg. So now we're coming into a pose called Janu Sirsasana, or head to knee pose. To come into this pose, I recommend taking your hands to your ribs. Rotate your torso towards your extended leg. Inhale, reach your fingers up. And then as you exhale, fold forward. So think about bringing your belly and your chest towards your straight leg. Your hands might meet the mat. Your forearms might ground down, but keep positioning your torso above your straight leg. Now, as you're in this fold, if you notice that your bent knee is up really high, then you can take a blanket or a block to support that thigh. This way you're not holding tension. Now, if you're really flexible in your hamstrings and you can reach your foot, then you can go deeper by taking a block to your foot and reaching your hands around the block. You might even be able to bring your forehead down to your knee. Just make sure you're not pressing directly onto your knee joint. Slowly starting to come out on an inhale breath, lifting the head. Exhale back to center. Now we are going to do that on the other side. Before we explore that on the other side, I'm going to give you an option to go deeper. So now we're going to come into a revolved head to knee pose. This means that rather than having the torso directly above the straight leg, we're going to rotate to open our chest. So one way you can do this is you can take your peace fingers, your index finger and your middle finger, to hook onto your big toe. You can reach your other arm up, and then you can bend your elbow and see about reaching overhead. Now, one option that I really like that I'd like to give you in case you can't reach your fingers to your big toe is to take your elbow down to the ground or to a block if you need some height. And as you bring your elbow down, cradle your head. Let your head rest, and then either reach your arm directly up. This is going to provide a nice stretch for the side body going into the back. And you can deepen it by reaching overhead. Now, the whole time, think about opening the chest. Think about swiveling the chest open so that you don't collapse. Open the chest. Notice how this feels. Nice, deep stretch. Inhale, reach the arm up. Both arms up. Exhale, bring the arms down. So we're going to try both of those on the other side. I'm just going to rotate my body so that you can see it from this angle. So we start with the legs straight, extended in front. Now we're going to bend the opposite knee, bring the sole of the foot up to the inner thigh. Starting off with our head to knee pose, take your hands to your ribs. Rotate your torso towards your straight leg. Now, inhale, reach the fingers up. As you exhale, hinge at the hips. Keep your torso above your leg. Let the hands come down when they're ready. Continue to position the belly and the chest above this leg. You can let your hands or your forearms rest down. You can lower your head down to your knee. You can play around with reaching your hands towards your ankle or your foot. Maybe you go deeper and you take the block. This just depends on your flexibility. The more we practice, the more flexible we become. So be patient with yourself. Breathe through the pose and feel gratitude for whatever your body allows you to do today. Release the hands. Inhale, slowly lift the head. Slow, slow, slow. And exhale, walk the hands towards the body. Working your way to that straight spine and then taking a round of breath there. Now we're coming into our revolved head to knee pose. So now the leg that we have straight, that same side arm is going to come to the inside of the leg. We have the option to take the peace fingers, the index finger and middle finger to hook onto the big toe. And as we hook on, we bend the elbow to lean forward. The opposite arm reaches up, maybe overhead, depending on how deep we want to go. Or we've got the option to bring the elbow down to the ground or to the block, cradle the head, lift the fingers up, and then maybe the fingers come overhead, and we practice rotating the chest, opening the heart, taking whatever variation is serving you on this side. Revolved head to knee pose. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bring the hands down. Give yourself time to take a full round of breath. Maybe get a sip of water if you need to. Bring both legs in, back to Sukhasana. Just taking a little reflective pause before we continue on. Enjoying that sip of water or a deep round of breath. Just getting re-centered. Know that we're going to come into a deeper hip opener next. All right, so next we're going to come into Agni Stambhasana, which is also known as double fire log or knee to ankle. So knee to ankle, because when we look at our legs, we're going to bring one leg so that the shin is parallel to the top of the mat. This means that we've got the ankle in line with the knee, and then we work with stacking the opposite leg on top. So the top ankle is resting on the bottom knee. The top knee is above the bottom ankle. If your knee is up really high, you've got the option to position a block underneath. Just know that as we fold forward, that gap is going to open up a little more. Alternatively, you can place the block at the hip crease, pulling it into the body and folding this way. So you're really just going to need to try both of those in your body and see which one's working for you. If none of these options work and this bent knee option is just too intense for your body, then straighten your bottom leg. Know that as you fold forward, you'll get a deep stretch for the hamstring of the straight leg, and you'll get a stretch for the hip of the bent knee. So this is going to be a more gentle option if you need. Otherwise, from Agni Stambhasana, bring the fingertips outside of the legs. Take an inhale breath. And then exhale. Hinge at the hips, lean forward. Now, all you have to do is lean your heart forward. Feel the stretch at the hip of your top leg. Keep both hips grounded on the mat. If you decide that you want to go deeper, your fingertips can come in front of the legs and maybe you fold more. So find the sweet spot. Find that deep, nice stretch. Enough to feel an opening, a release of tension, but not so much that you're feeling major discomfort or pain. This is one of my all-time favorite hip openers. Anytime my hips are talking to me, this is my go-to. Just know that you're going to want to warm up the hips before you come into this option. And then walk your fingertips towards the body, coming out slowly, finding a straight spine. We're going to do that same thing on the other side. So the leg that's above now comes below. Remember, ankle in line with the knee. And then we stack the top leg. We can work with a block for propping. We can extend that bottom leg. You can take any option that's working best for your body. So inhale, lift the crown of your head up when you're ready to come in. And then exhale, just lean your heart forward. Just leaning forward to the point of feeling that stretch. Maybe your fingertips come in front of the legs. Maybe the palms ground down. Feel the hips connected to the mat. Feel a nice deep stretch on the hip of your top leg. Remember that this is your practice. You can go as deep or as light as you want to. You are in control of each shape and each option. If there's ever a pose that you're not sure about, please feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to talk to you about that further. Let's take 2 more rounds of breath on this side. When you're ready to come out, slowly lifting the head on the inhale breath. And slowly walking the hands towards the body on the exhale. All right, round of breath here. Feeling gratitude for the body. We've got just a few more to go. We'll unwind the legs. Straighten the legs, bring them in front of you. We're gonna practice a bind. Working one side at a time. We'll bend one knee, and as we bend the knee, we'll bring the heel as close to the glute as you can. Now, the leg that you have bent, that same side arm comes to the inside of the leg. Lean forward. Bend your elbow, wrap your arm around your bent leg. Take your other arm behind you, see if your hands meet. Now, you're only gonna come into this pose if your hands can meet. If your hands meet, you're gonna fold forward. Think about your torso coming towards your straight leg. Take a breath here, notice how this feels. And then release your hands. And as you inhale, slowly lift the head up. The slower you lift the head up when you exit out, the less dizzy you'll become. Now extend this leg. Take a full round of breath. Now we're gonna bend the opposite knee. The knee that's bent, same side arm comes to the inside of the knee. Lean forward. Wrap your arm around the knee. Your elbow's gonna bend. Opposite arm comes behind your back. Fingers meet. Now, if your fingers meet, you can fold forward, bringing your forehead towards your straight leg. If your fingers don't meet, then you're gonna stay in an upright position. Maybe just even releasing the hands and seeing how it feels for the shoulder of the arm that you tried to wrap around. Or alternatively, maybe just relaxing the arms and leaning forward here. So play with these different shapes and options. Let your body explore this pose. And then slowly start to come out, letting the head rise up on the inhale. And then exhale, extend this leg. Now, we'll bend both knees, coming back into Sukhasana, our easy seat. This is a very traditional posture in the yoga practice. What we're gonna practice next is half lotus and then full lotus. Full lotus, you're gonna need really open hips. If that's not accessible, then you're gonna stick with half lotus until it is. So for half lotus, you want your hips to be open first before you try either one of these variations. You're gonna lift the foot that's closest to your body, and you're gonna bring the pinky side edge of the foot into the opposite side hip crease. So the top of your foot is resting onto your thigh. Okay, so it's gonna be thigh towards the inner thigh. So this is our half lotus. Now, if we wanna come into full lotus, we're gonna do that on both sides. So we already have one foot tucked in. Remember, the pinky edge of the foot is coming up to the hip crease. Watch your knee. If this makes your knee scream, then don't try either variation. If the knee is okay of the first leg, then take the foot of the second leg. Bring the pinky edge of the foot to the opposite hip crease. Now we're in full lotus. Remember, this is one that you're gonna wanna do at the end of your practice if this is not how you usually sit. Once you're able to come into full lotus, which is called Padmasana, you'll notice that you might find yourself sitting like this in other locations. Sometimes when I'm out at a restaurant or somewhere, the airport, wherever it is, I'll sit this way so that as I'm sitting, I can work with opening my hips. So just bring your hands down to your thighs. Let your eyes close, bringing the gaze inward. With the gaze inward, just notice the alignment of your body, whether you're in full lotus or half lotus or Sukhasana, whichever shape you decide to have your legs in. Think about reaching the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. Think about positioning the shoulders above the hips and the ears above the shoulders. Know that if you're ready to go into meditation post this practice, this is a nice way to come into it after your physical practice. If you're ready to close your practice for today, please join me by bringing your palms together, thumbs to your heart center. In stillness, noticing your breath. Feeling the chest rise with each inhale breath. And feeling the torso soften with each exhale breath. Take a deep inhalation again. And with your exhalation, let your shoulders relax. One more round of breath to seal our practice, our seated practice for today. Exhale, let it go. Let the eyes flutter open. Thank you for joining me today for seated yoga poses. It is my honor to guide you through this practice. See you next time. Namaste.